Hey everyone, so happy to be here with you. My name is Colleen Jorgensen, and I am going to talk about this really exciting conjunction that is happening between Jupiter and Uranus on April 20th, 21st of 2024. It is one of the big aspects that is happening in the coming year. And as humans, we always are looking for that really positive thing that's going to essentially bring us hope. Hope is the biggest word in our vocabulary that keeps us going. It propels us forwards. So many astrologers, psychics, prophecies are gearing towards this epic enlightenment that is going to happen for humanity. This big awakening, this new renaissance that is going to emerge onto the Earth's surface. So this is a big one. It's a big connection, but there's a couple major things that are kind of tying into this big awakening. And that is, of course, Pluto moved into the sign of Aquarius on January 20th. And just below here on Facebook, you can find the talk about Pluto. And really, I don't really go into positive aspects with Pluto in that talk. And the reason I don't is because I really wanted you to understand that Pluto is much more than just transformation. So Pluto is transiting, of course, in the sign of Aquarius. We've just entered into the air element under the helm of Aquarius, and Aquarius is humanity. It is our collective consciousness. So regardless of your ethnic background, your sexuality, your religious base, we as humans are all tied in to this conscious collective thoughts. And so it is one of the primary things that could very well save humanity as we roll towards some of these shifts that are pretty significant over the course of the next, 4 to 5 years. And so this Aquarius element and how and where we stand as a human nature and humanity in and of itself is extremely important. Now, it's really important, and it ties in this massive Jupiter-Uranus connection that arrives on April 20th, 21st, is, of course, landing in the sign of Taurus, but Uranus rules the sign of Aquarius. So it really plays a big role in our collective consciousness, our group mentality, and where we go forward from here as the world, and how we stand together or we fracture further apart. So a conjunction, really what it does is it merges two energies together. Now, Jupiter is a sign that seeks expansion, and Jupiter is the largest planet in the universe. So you can see how it's quite expansive. It really exaggerates things. And sometimes that exaggeration is to say, hey, draw our attention over to what it is that Jupiter wants us to see and address. And that thing that it wants us to see and address is the magnification of Uranus and its representation of Uranus. So this is magnifying and exaggerating the push really for freedom and liberation. So many of us coming out of COVID and all the restrictions of COVID and the rules and regulatory system, now we're kind of looking for that autonomy, independence, and some of that came out of COVID. Many of us are working independently at home. Some of us are learning at home with the children. And so there is that positive element that came out that we're not children. We can actually be responsible to work in our own environments and get that work done. So these two connect approximately every 12 to 14 years. And of course, in 2010 and 2011, was the brought up the Arab Spring and the real push for equality, equal rights, which is very much about Jupiter and Uranus. The last time it was in the sign of Taurus was 1929. And really, aside from the crash of the stock market in 1929, we also had a big wave flowing through innovations, inventions, the emergence of the TV, but we also encountered those financial disruptions as well in the sign of Taurus. Now, Taurus is a real spring sign. This is when the ground is really fertile and we're ready to just seed in that fertile bed of soil. It's an earth sign, so it's very focused on those things that are of material benefit to us, such as our food and agricultural practices, but also the things we buy, our shelter, our home, our jewelry, our clothing, and our worth, our income, and how we spend our money as well, and how we earn our money. So these are kind of, Taurus is our basic needs, and Taurus can get really stuck in obtaining those material-based things as a cushion, as a sense of security, and that we kind of cling to all our possessions to give us a sense that we belong or we're connected to something. So this area is the stage upon which the actors of Jupiter and Uranus are going to play out their roles. And so as the curtains part here, and we could be shocked into the very connection that these two planets bring us. For the most part, Jupiter is very positive. It's very enlightening. It's ruled by Zeus. It is full of opportunities, and it also brings us quite often great wealth. It is ruled by the elite and high society. And so this first act with Jupiter and Uranus together could be quite the opening of the play. And the play, of course, continues on. The first is the conjunction, the waxing quarter square, the full moon of this, and then the waning quarter square, and then back to the conjunction again. So this is going to happen all within 12, 14 years. So we got to play our part in this excitement of the potential for a real conscious collective awakening that spreads like wildfire. So this new cycle is all about beginning, but it's also about the ending and the finishing up of the last cycle. And that last cycle began in 2010, 2011. So the main actor is Uranus here, and Jupiter is just magnifying, but also bringing in ethical and moral issues. It's bringing in the legal system, new laws. It's bringing in universities, educational components. It's bringing in immigration to this really exciting element with Uranus. And I love Uranus because Uranus rules astrology. So Uranus is extremely unpredictable energy, and it lays on its side as it's rotating around the sun. It enjoys startling us to awareness. It shocks us into this reality. And this is when a lot of people will go, I never, ever seen that coming. I didn't see it coming. Like your husband comes home and says, I'm leaving, or your spouse comes home and says, I'm leaving, or the car, you run into a car and you go, I never seen that car. So this element of surprise is in this. It's like opening up a big package and we're not quite sure what we're going to find out and how that's going to impact us. So I can guarantee anybody born on April 20th or 19th, 20th, 21st are going to feel this energy quite profoundly. And it's got all the components of like just firing off and igniting a whole new wave of discoveries. And it's a very stimulating, it's very energizing, it's really jumpy, and yet it brings these really shifts of changes in like the blink of an eye. So these sometimes can be those events such as sudden storms that wipe out your entire house and your life is never the same. So the opening and the cracking open of consciousness and awareness sometimes takes those shocks. Like, what is life worth if it isn't worth living? And so all of these things that we have around us, maybe they aren't the most important thing that we have in our lives. And maybe this will jar all of humanity into seeing something different than what we're in right now. So Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury's intellect. It is that far out there idea that nobody has thought about. It's beyond us to even comprehend because perhaps we haven't seen it yet. And so our mind wanders there, and then somebody brings us back to reality with Saturn. Our mind thinks of possibilities, and then they go, oh, don't be so silly. That's a silly idea. And so there's an interest in roaming here, to roam outside the boundaries. And now that Saturn is in the sign of Pisces, we can roam more freely. So our minds are going in all different directions here to seek new discovery, to go where no man has gone before, as Star Trek had put it. So this is investing in new models of seeing things through a new light. And it's like the light bulb goes off and we got it, we understand it, we know how it works. So it's extremely exciting. So a new banner is going to rise for things like equality, justice issues, liberation, freedom. You know, we are inspired now to open the gates to new insights and possibilities. So this really does open our minds, and the closed-mindedness that no, there is no such thing as UFOs, no, there is no such thing as ghosts, can really be enlightening to discover that perhaps there are. So some of these, this energy is really, can be really wild. So I'm just going to put across the board some of the possibilities. Not all of these things will manifest, but some of them very well could. As our minds open, we all of a sudden see things through that different light. And as such, we find solutions to new discoveries and new ways of dealing with things. So Uranus, of course, is wild, and it is always, in my opinion, one of the most shocking things that most people will ever encounter in their life. So if you don't like change, maybe you won't like this aspect. And it might take you a little bit to budge because it's in the fixed sign of Taurus, and to hang on maybe a little longer on the edge of that cliff. So Uranus is scientific advancements. And this could very well be advancements with DNA. It can certainly lead to some advancements with the nervous system, and it could really highlight things in the medical field, such as paraplegics, quadriplegics, and the nervous system itself, certain diseases that are nervous, like Parkinson's or other nervous conditions that are arising. Now, things like Alzheimer's or dementia as well could be put in this just because it pertains to the brain. And so there could be new discoveries or advancements in sciences because of this, with those types of diseases. You know, those spasmodic diseases, like tics or Tourette's or something like that, could also see some breakthroughs. Now, we've just had some rulings, which is Jupiter in the courts in the United States, with in vitro fertilization and ethical and moral issues about the eggs, the frozen eggs, being human and considered to be children and deserve the protection of the courts. So there's going to be some of that goes along with this advancements in the sciences. And if they are ethical and moral, and maybe some rulings of judgment around these scientific breakthroughs. The big one that everybody is talking about, of course, is technologies. So we're going to see huge advancements in AI, communication, computers, and so that could be advancements in telephones, you know, AI, they're talking about that all over the place. And they're also talking about the moral and ethical responsibilities, which is Jupiter, and whether some of these things need to be governed by some rules. So definitely some of these technologies are going to come into the universities and educational system. And so we could definitely see some of that emerge. Also with the immigration system, we could also see some of that advancements with cataloging through computer systems, who is coming, who isn't, and more advancements with that. Batteries, with the technologies, I could see a huge jump in batteries, and batteries for cars, of course. And with that battery technology, we could see a huge advancement in people buying, battery operated cars, radio, TV, broadcasting, and even the bigger channels out into space and communication that we're receiving perhaps from other galaxies. We could also see armament advancements in term bombs, because we got to face it, Uranus is really explosive. And we could see advancements in electrical advancements and electrical advanced systems. So I'm not sure if this is a changeover in electronics, but we're going to see some different waves and different technologies coming forth with the electrical system. Electronics also are going to be advancing at record paces, and quantum advances, we could really look and see some of those happening. Now, the reason why is because the sign of Aquarius is the ruler, Uranus is the ruler of that. And so humanity could be investing in some of these technologies. So we could once again see a tech bubble emerge in the investment, because Taurus, of course, is investments and money, and huge waves of money perhaps being put into some of these technologies. So Uranus also rules engineering. Agricultural equipment is going to be a big thing. We've seen huge advancements, satellites, running the tractors and the combines and stuff. And, they don't even steer the tractors anymore. They just, with GPS, it just goes up and down the field. I guess they got to turn at the other end. So big advancements in that. And also the agriculture industry is going to be really highlighted here because it's in Taurus, food production. And of course, 1929, they went right into the dirty 30s, which really highlighted the need to change agricultural practices. And Uranus is more Neptune, that is chemicals and those types of things. But we could see some agricultural practices shift significantly with this connection that's being made. Plants, new DNA planting, new DNA strands or breeds of different types of plants. Also, air is the element here. So in terms of the overall energy, so we could be planting more wall gardens and roof gardens and things like that. Food production. There is tons of inventions here, and necessity is the mother of invention. So a real need could be out there, and new inventions and innovation could really be taking hold in terms of engineering. And this could really come with travel, especially the airlines and subway travel systems, the rail line, and huge shifts and changes and money being pumped into some of these technologies and engineering practices for the environment and the safety of the environment. If we could all get on a really fast moving train and move between our locations like we used to do back in the day, it would really save on environmental practices. Many of these trains are running on electricity versus engine or gas engines. So we airlines as well in the airline industry could see an advancements not only in their planes, but also in their whole system of how they travel and where they're traveling to. Engines themselves could see a shift. So we got these batteries that could start to come on board, and then we got these new engines that could be emerging. Now, remember, not all of these things are going to be highlighted. These are just a few things that could come to pass. And especially the cereals and the grains, I think that's going to be a really big advancement in the scientific technologies of different breeds. So gas stations, and with the emergence of electrical vehicles, we could really see more electrical plug-ins along roadways and gas stations all over the world actually could be starting to implement these different types of gas stations. Roadways and new materials perhaps to build these roadways and the infrastructure that connects us all together. Of course, guns, ammunition, and bombs and the engineering of those is really highlighted. It would be nice to see the elimination of all of them, so we could move to more of a peaceful world. And we can only cross our fingers and hope, but maybe with this type of collective consciousness, maybe we would move towards the elimination of killing each other. It's quite barbaric. And you'd think that we had moved and become more civilized as nations and countries than going around murdering each other. It's quite caveman-ic structures. And so cars, motorized vehicles, they're all like up for renewal, because Uranus is very much about renewal and moving away from things. So space is going to be a big one. The advancements, it's already begun. The advancements in discovering new galaxies, because Jupiter rules that big telescope up there, or that. So here we have this microscopic view of the whole universe, and we can see those different galaxies, and we could possibly tap into space travel, going to different galaxies. There could be the launching of some sort of a spacecraft that goes to another planet or a different galaxy. UFOs, or I think they call them something else now, but I know them as UFOs, unidentified flying objects, and aliens. So that is really up for grabs, the sudden awareness that, holy, like maybe there is life out there. Also things like the studying of surface material that comes into Earth's atmosphere, like, pieces of comets, or, the rocks we collect from the moon, those types of things. Now, the oddities of Uranus, because Uranus is not normal, or it's not normal until it's brought in, processed, and then shot out the other side, and then it becomes normal. But for the most part, Uranus is a very enlightening planet because it brings into our periphery possibilities. And so the oddities, are what I consider oddity, or not mainstream things, and that's what Uranus is, could be really highlighted here with Jupiter. Some of those things, of course, is my favorite, astrology. So astrology could really become expanded, and maybe put under the microscope again, and it has been put under the microscope before, as to whether it is legal, is it a psychic, like where does it fit? Is it factual or not? Because, you know, it was used in universities, it was used, and it was a mainstream thing at one time, used by doctors or the educated people. And people really believed that you needed to follow the stars and the galaxies to find out what was going to happen through the frequencies that each of these events were bringing to humanity. Astral projection, which was scientifically used, I think, in World War II, that could come back in. So just think on some of these really odd things, metaphysical applications, things that we can't grasp normally, occultism, the hippie generation, and just like, let's sit around and relax, and psychic reception. And that plays into just that electricity that we have between each other as humans. You know, you step into somebody's space and you can feel their energy. We're attracted to some people and we're not attracted to other people. So these are just a few of some of the topics that could be really highlighted over the course of this year. And it's going to come fast. Like, this is a really fast moving energy. Uranus doesn't like to play around. It just says, boom, here you go. This is it. So on a human level, just you and me, or you, or somebody else, could get these waves of sudden inspiration, sudden ideas that just come to them, that you just go, wow, like, where'd you ever get that from? And these could be different philosophies, different innovations, inventions. They just come like whoosh, they're just there. I call them in the ether. They just are everywhere, actually. You just have to open your mind to pick them up. And so if you stay locked into that fixed energy of Taurus, you could really get stuck down in the mud there. And you really got to lift yourself out of the mud. And because Uranus doesn't like Taurus, it likes to lift and regenerate and to move forward. It's future. It is the future. So this is definitely the future expansion that we're dealing with this combination. It is really kind of quite emotional with all of that kinetic, astral, psychic energy that is swirling around. But you know, just go with it. It makes you different. And we're really going to embrace different. That we're always trying to stuff everybody into one great big pile of the same. Get a job, get married, earn a living, and be happy with your life, retire, vacation a bit, and there you go. There's your life. Uranus says, let's not do that anymore. Uranus said, let's do something different. Let's become our own people. Let's be unique. Let's be original. Let's not do that. Like, let's do something different. So that is really magnified and really exaggerated. I want to work independently. I want to run my own business. Maybe I don't want to work for that corporation. I want to be involved in a collective togetherness, which could really bring the communal living into existence and people cohabitating together, especially with the housing crunches that are emerging in Canada anyway, and you know, for some of the immigrants who were forced to flee from the Ukraine, who are still living in boxes, that we can develop this whole system of cohabitation. Uranus also doesn't like to be attached to anything. It likes to be free to come and go as it pleases. As soon as it feels like it's constrained, it starts to get this panic, wobbly energy, and it doesn't know what to do. Like, are you boxing me in a corner? So people are not going to like that. This is out of the box thinking. So this is the desire for freedom. It's it's quite radical thinking or outside of the norm. This is the need to break free and liberate yourself. It can produce riots and revolutions because it's collective. And these are grassroots movements that begin to emerge, which want to overthrow the status quo. It wants to change what isn't needed or wanted. So expect a lot more movements, marches, and the ideology of ethical and moral issues of constraint. Uranus rules the underdog. It doesn't want anybody held hostage. It doesn't want anybody to be forced into doing something that it doesn't want to do. So it's very much about the evolution of life and the continuation of life for survival in many ways. It's a very original, unique, and very unusual. So be yourself. Like, it doesn't matter if the neighbor doesn't like the oddity or the interests or your thought patterns. If you're exploring, explore, and open that mind to different philosophies, different educational pursuits, different possibilities. And you're just going to be flooded with so much energy and so much enlightenment. You know what it's like when you discover something new, you get all excited and you just want to, I want to learn about that. So it's very spontaneous. Because it rules air travel, people could be moving around quite a bit and saying, you know, I don't want to live here. I think I'm going to go live over there in a different country and discover how they live over there. There is no judgment with Uranus. So, of course, Uranus, because it is different and outside of what society considers normal, it does rule those fractions of transgender, you know, gay people and all of that, because Uranus really taps into sexuality and individual rights of sexuality. It doesn't say, Uranus doesn't say that everybody's got to accept that. It says that just be who you are, no matter what everybody else thinks. You don't need the recognition from everybody else. You don't need to be included. You can be quite comfortable standing outside the box and just be you. So it's a very spontaneous energy. So those issues are going to arrive with, and they already have surfaced with some of these issues with children and the school system. So this is really accelerated. It's really strange. It can produce very quick events. It works on backing up and separating yourself from the issue so you can see it from a different space in time. It causes upheaval. It's very chaotic as we go through the changes that are required with Uranus. And it rules time. And so does Saturn. Saturn is associated with time, but this is about actual like watches and those types of technologies. Uranus is weird, and people in the normal society could view anybody who's outside of that as being very weird, strange. She has strange thoughts. The Earth itself is also experiencing the frequency of Jupiter and Uranus is energies combined. These can produce massive earthquakes. And so we really need to be conscientious because Jupiter makes it bigger than everything and anything. And so this rules massive earthquakes. So you do need to be cautious in those earthquake areas. It can produce tremors, shaking of the earth. It can produce sudden storms. And because we have some wind here with Aquarius, we could get these winds also. Expect blackouts or the electrical grid to go down, which need is the mother of invention. So when we get these rolling blackouts, we could also see somebody says we got to do something about this. And also explosions, sudden explosions that can happen very quickly and very, very spontaneously. And so that is it. In a nutshell, I suppose you could say, wow, we're going to have this big download of information that just washes into us. That's a possibility. But generally speaking, because we're human, we might get ideas and downloading information from the ether and from the spiritual worlds or from alien connections to us. That is a high probability. I don't know. Us humans like to see it before we believe it. And that could be the downfall, the detriment. Otherwise, we go, oh, we're just going crazy. And Uranus is crazy. Uranus is a bit crazy. So we got to watch for those disturbances in the brain as well, and actually sit down with yourself and go, am I going crazy? Or is this just a new phenomenon that is happening? It's funny, microwaves are Jupiter-Uranus connection. So now the thing that I haven't really talked a lot about is where this is all happening and how and what it will affect. And that the stage is Taurus. And so it's in that piece of the zodiac that is Taurus. And Taurus is a very large area. It is a fixed sign. And so it doesn't like change. And here we have this massive wave of change that is coming. And this massive wave and all these technologies are going to shift what we value. They're going to shift what we spend on and what we deem as worthy of our hard-earned cash. And Uranus is separation, and the separation of these material things that we have since 2000, when we dropped back into the Taurus energy, started to accumulate, so much so that we've had to go out and buy storage units and containers and trailers just to store all of this junk that we have accumulated. But, I've got the boat, I've got the tent, I've got this, I've got that, I can do this. And so that is really important. This could really shift what we deem as worth investing in. And Maybe it is something other than what we have now. So this Taurus sign is fertile ground. It's where we plant the seeds. It's moist and rich from the spring rains. And so seeds are going to be planted here at this conjunction, which is like a new moon. And we're going to see those seeds grow and nourish and be fed and come into our lives and into our reality until it becomes normal. And then Uranus will come along and change it again or seek something new and different again. So this Taurus really rules our security through financial benefit, our bank accounts, the cash that comes in, our currencies, coins, Bitcoin, alternative coinage. And so we could see some of that, a new wave of that alternative money, whether that's credit cards, Bitcoin, and see a different connection to this. However, we could also see, I don't believe Uranus is not centralized. Uranus fractures us apart. And so Uranus doesn't want to see us move into one collective centralized system. That's Saturn that wants us to do that. Uranus says, go out and develop something different. Enlighten me. You know, sort of like the king in the biblical sense hands out his bags of gold and says, go see what you can do with it. So Uranus wants something that is different. It wants us humans to think. So we could really see different currencies and different ways of dealing with cash or the currency system. We could also see perhaps the whole system in the world shift. Instead of the basis of the American dollar, we could see it shift into everybody has their own dollar, and that's what they work with, and that's what they know. It's not based off of somebody else. So money lenders such as the banks also could be changing some of their rules, regulatory systems, and ethical practices. This is also the investment in technologies and all of those things I just mentioned, investment in those, whether they're coming from the government or whether they're coming from you as an investor investing in some of these companies that are going to emerge as producing really amazing, innovative technologies. So this is also the styles in which we are clothing ourselves, and our food and agriculture is really important here. As I've already mentioned, agricultural equipment is going to change. Satellites up there, GPS, like huge advancements in the DNA of various food sources. New strains could be coming on board with new resistance to drought or resistance to diseases. And that is really an important one. Taurus is also about the cattle industry. And it's more about cattle, but it can be about the animals in general on the pastures. So the way we produce our animals and how we deal with animals could very much shift. And that could really become a reality. How we produce our food and what we are ingesting in our body, and is it healthy for us? So artificial food could be coming on board. They're already producing artificial meat out of vegetables, I think. I haven't experienced that yet, but I should maybe give it a whirl. So we could see some artificial foods coming to us as well. So Taurus is very basic. Like Taurus doesn't necessarily want a lot, but Taurus can get greedy. Taurus can really become the hoarder. And we don't want that. We don't want hoarding. It's not a balance of Taurus. Taurus is not necessarily, I'm going to share with you either, but you could really see the emergence of those communities where they do share and they do create a equalization of energy in them. Jupiter is, of course, that, like I said, those ethical and moral issues. And before I leave you with this highly enlightened aspect coming on April 20th, and it'll start to emerge before that, it's already emerging, we really need to pay attention to those equalities. The air element goes across. The air element doesn't go in a hierarchy like the boss and you go all the way down. Uranus goes across, equality. So equal rights, equality, and liberation for all is going to be important, and that everyone has the opportunity to have what they need to feel secure and sustained. And that's Taurus. So if you go back to 1929, there was huge shifts that were starting to take place in the financial sectors at that time. And of course, the food distribution and how it was distributed. So expect this whole wave of energy that just starts coming towards us as we head towards April 20th. And I'm really excited for it. And you have to learn to change. Don't get stuck. Don't get resistant. Just accept and acknowledge that there are differences between us and that everyone is equal in every aspect. So thanks for joining me, and I will be back to talk about something else next time. So we'll catch you on the flip side. See you later. Bye.